Okay, time for you to go.
I was just having a chat with Peter's here.
You can see how busy this department is, right? You've been nothing but a distraction and a disruption since you've been here. I'm already short-staffed, and I just lost 5 nurses and half my environmental services team because you walked in. You know, patients come in here for help, right? Because they're either sick or they're injured, and documented or undocumented, they have a right to emergency care. TB, measles, fractures, none of it's getting treated because everybody's too scared to come in. But then they end up here anyway, but then it's too fucking late. So please, for the love of God, can you just go wait over there in the room with your detainees so I don't lose any more patients or staff?
Hello, all. Welcome back to What's On Tonight, a podcast with elaborate, quirky, and unpredictable conversations about TV, movies, and more. I'm Becky.
I'm Mandy.
Today we are covering HBO Max's hit show, The Pitt, Season 2, Episode 11, titled 5 p.m. Please note this is a spoiler-filled podcast, so if you haven't watched the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, just come back and check us out once you're done. And before we get into episode 11, we got some great feedback on our episode 10 coverage via YouTube at Psycho Jack says, OMG, I love that you read my comment. My sister is currently an R1, so I get a lot of behind the scenes info. And then Psycho Jax goes on to say at 3545 of our podcast, talking about Mohan, he says, it wasn't mentioned in the show yet, but the actress said in an interview that part of her backstory is that her father actually died from a sudden heart attack, which is why I think she's so acutely aware of the symptoms and she thought she was going to have one. That brings some way different perspective into why she freaked out the way that she did. That's cool.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That really does add a lot to that storyline.
Thank you, Psycho Jax. And I still love your name, man.
I do too, and we need to know where Psycho Jax came from. It sounds like a really awesome breakfast cereal for bikers.
It sounds like that, or it could be like a badass band name.
For sure.
There's so many great things Psycho Jax could stem from. So please, if you give us feedback next week, and we hope that you will, let us know how you got your little handle there.
At Kano0794 says, thanks for another great episode, ladies. Well, thank you, Kano. We're always fun hearing from you. And then goes on, a couple of comments. This portrayal of an orthopedic surgeon is actually super realistic and didn't feel camp or exaggerated at all. The kind of classic ortho is a bit of a bro with typical surgeon behavior. A lot who I have met fits this type. There are definitely ones who are more personable, but this isn't just a trope. I love the exploration of palliative care for Roxy. I've had an amazing opportunity to look after patients who are palliative, and where I work, we do not have a hospice, so this is a very realistic patient experience in first coming to the ER and then being up in a hospital room in the general ward. There is a beauty in it that you can't do anything for their disease, but you can just really aggressively treat their symptoms and not have to worry about potential for addiction or anything like that. One of the greatest gifts you can give the patient and their family at that time is listening to them and responding with the appropriate treatment. I'm so glad that McKay has been able to just be focused on this and show that journey. The last thing I want to comment on is I have seen a lot of comments about inappropriate relationships in the workplace between learners. At least in Canada, all medical students and residents are either students with the university or employees of the university that work within the hospital system. The only people who can influence your marks and your rotations and your evaluations are attending physicians. Sure, a more senior learner definitely gives feedback and might influence these evals, but the actual evaluations themselves are only coming from attendings. So there would not be any concern about a relationship between 2 medical students, 2 residents, or a medical student and a resident. Even a relationship between a resident and an attending wouldn't be a concern if they were in different specialties. Robbie and Colin's implied relationship last season is actually the one that raises the most alarm bells for me, as he was her program director, which would be a big no-no. Garcia and Santos may be toxic, but no HR conflict. Looking forward to the next week. Man, I never thought that about Collins and Robbie before, but yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Wow. Kano, I love that you're our medical resident.
Yeah, me too.
Such good feedback. And Ginger Morris says, love you, girlies. We love you. And how inclusive you are, how willing you are to learn and admit errors. We're all human and we can all grow if we help each other. And you girls are shining examples of that. Oh, thank
Aw.
you.
Thank you, Ginger. It's not easy for either one of us. Becky and I, you may not realize this, are two of the biggest know-it-alls on the planet, and we love to be right.
Oh, yeah. Favorite thing in the world.
Yeah, so it's not easy, but you don't grow if you don't allow that you could be wrong every once in a while and take in information from somebody who knows better. So thank you.
She goes on to say, more love from Ireland as always, and thanks for another great episode. I would love to come on and cast with you girlies someday. You're so much fun. That would be cool. P.S. Extra hugs for you, Becky, because I know you're going through right now is super tough. Aw, thank you so much.
Oh, Ginger, that's awesome. We would love to talk to you about maybe coming on and doing a guest host spot with us on an episode. Send us some feedback and let us know your contact information that you prefer, a way that maybe we could hop on a Zoom or something, because we'd have to work out the logistics with you being in Ireland. But man, an international episode, sign us up. We're ready right now.
So cool.
At Linda 1541 says,
hey, girl, hey.
Great podcast, ladies. She's got 3 little heart emojis. I can't wait to see what happens next on the Pit. Ooh, Linda.
I don't know if I can't wait, but yeah.
I'd like to know. I think we find out a little later how you actually feel after you saw it, but whoo, yeah, it was a doozy.
And we got a feedback from a new listener. This is Susan, and she wrote via email, my husband has been a surgical physician assistant for 30 years, and this is the first medical drama he's enjoyed because of the accuracy of the writing. Only one sort of big complaint. The nurse practitioner was referred to as, in quotation marks, mid-level provider. This is a very outdated and disrespectful term for physician assistants and nurse practitioners. They are classified as advanced practice providers in most hospital systems. He works for a large system in Michigan and is even a director of many service lines. APPs are a vital part of patient care and are very under and misrepresented in the show. Thank you for that, Susan. We have us another medical resident to give us some clarification on things.
I've never really thought about that term, mid-level provider, or what that meant. Who said it last episode? I don't even remember who said it.
I think it was in the show.
Yeah. Do you remember what character said it?
No, I don't.
I've never really thought about the term mid-level provider before, but I can definitely see why that might be insulting. It kind of just sounds insulting. It kind of insinuates that you're just middle of the road. Like, I don't like that term. I don't blame people for wanting to use different language there. Also, this is a great chance for me to work in that I saw my physician's assistant this week. I mean, I see them more than I see my general practitioner these days. And as I told Becky, he did the AI charting with me. He asked me for my consent to do AI charting, and then I felt like I was in the pit for just a minute. Yeah, it was very cool.
Yeah. Sidebar, my mom had to go to the emergency room the other night. Everything's fine now. And my niece and I, who she watches the Pit too, were sitting there. And as nurses and doctors and whatnot came into the room, we were giving them all characters of who we thought they would be on the Pit. And also, I was gloving up and helping change like the bedding and stuff like that when mom needed to get up, and using the hand sanitizer. If you think I wasn't acting like I wasn't a doctor on the Pit, you don't know me.
Y'all, I wish that we had time for you to hear this story. Becky, I wasn't sure if you were wanting to talk about it, so didn't want to bring it up. But I wish we had time to just talk about what Becky's been through this week. She literally lived an episode of the Pit. I mean, it was just the healthcare system in this country at its finest with her mom. And it genuinely would make an insane episode all on its own.
Seriously, writers, if you're listening,
Becky's got one.
I got a story that would make a great episode.
Woo! Okay, Virginia says, hi, Becky and Mandy. I was astounded to hear you mention me in my comments on Spotify in your episode 8 discussion. Well, thanks, Virginia. We were sorry we didn't get to it until later, but I'm glad we got you in. She says, so pumped. I had a thought about Roddy's plans. Remember he said he was going to head smashed in Buffalo Jump, which is a World Heritage Site in Alberta, Canada, less than a couple of hours from where I live. All right, another Canadian. I'm so glad Becky's let me read this, Virginia, because I cannot believe when I read your email, I could not believe that we missed the fact that he was going to head smashed in Buffalo Jump.
Yeah. Like if that's not a big giant sign, I don't know what is.
Well, Virginia goes on to say, it seems like a metaphor for Robbie's suicidal ideation. The site is a cliff that the indigenous people would herd buffalo towards as an easy way to kill them, to then use the meat, etc. I'm not saying Robbie has the literal idea of riding his motorcycle over a cliff, but the concept of finding a way to kill oneself and this place seems to strongly suggest his state of mind right now. Thank you for your wonderful podcast. Love, Virginia in Calgary, Alberta. Virginia, astounding. Thank you so much for bringing that to our attention, because I generally flew right over my head that was literally the name of the place that he was going. And also, that is very near where my grandmother's family is historically from.
Aw.
Yeah, French Canadians.
Y'all, thank you so much. We were discussing right before we started recording how we are loving that we're getting feedback on our podcast. We love getting feedback on the show, but it's so cool to hear from you guys after we've released an episode where you discuss with us what you thought about our thoughts on the episode, and then offer if it's additional information or just a different point. We just love it. Thank you all so much. It means so much to us.
Yeah, it feels like you're all here with us now. Like sometimes as we're talking, I don't know if you guys have picked up on this, but especially some of you longtime commenters, we start factoring you in to the discussion sometimes, and mentioning oh yeah, like Linda told us that, a couple of episodes ago or whatever. So it's really cool. You're all part of the team, man.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get on into episode 11.
No, do we have to? I'm just now recovering. Do we really have to talk about this? Let's just go back and discuss episode 2 again.
Yeah, let's go back to season 1, episode 1. Back to when we were all babies and had no idea what hell was in front of us.
Yeah.
So this episode was written by Valerie Chu and directed by Uta Brisowitz.
All right, here we go. And the synopsis for this episode is: Roxy passes and Robbie, with a shake and Javati, signs her death certificate. McKay and Ogilvy treat an unhoused woman, causing McKay to miss Roxy's death. Ogilvy and Mohan make a big mistake and get different reactions from Robbie. ICE agents arrive with an injured detainee, causing patients and staff to flee in fear. Mel feels distressed with Becca's growing independence. Langdon attempts to apologize to Santos, but Santos doesn't accept it. Al-Hashimi overhears their confrontation, and Emma is in danger. Girl, Emma is in danger.
All right, let's get into main points. I'm gonna bring us out of the gate with Santos, Langdon, and Dr. Al. So we're gonna work our way down and build up to
the confrontation.
What I'm calling Santos v. Langdon.
Santos v. Langdon.
All right, so we get this this poor little baby, this heat stroke kid, and oh my God, that poor mom.
That's such a nightmare.
I really like Dr. Al and Langdon paired together. Those two just really work for me. I think she brings out the good doctor in him, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the way Dr. Al, when the kid was brought into the trauma room and she immediately, hi, are you mom? I'm Dr. Al-Hashimi. How calm she is when talking to the parent. And even when she tells Perla to get the body bag, she says it low. Not that she thought the kid was going to die, but they needed it to be able to cool him down. But just her frame of mind to know to do that quietly, to not further upset this already freaked out mom.
Oh, that's why I didn't even notice that they had him in a body bag. That line just was like the many, many things that just felt like a gut punch in this episode. But yeah, I didn't even notice that that's what they put him in for the heat bath.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever told you this story, but my brother fell in a fire when I was a kid. And we were at a friend's house and they had a bonfire. I was 5 and he was 9. A friend tripped him, like playing around, like jokingly, because 9-year-olds probably shouldn't be left unsupervised, running around like Lord of the Flies in front of a fire pit. But they were. And he tripped in and fell, and his entire body was in flames, and they put him in one of those.
God, that's painful.
Yeah, he was very lucky.
I love the way Dr. Al is such a great teacher, again, remaining so calm.
Yeah. And
the way she is coaching Mel through what they're doing. I'm so grateful for her this season.
Man, we need her.
I am so happy for her.
She's like an eye in the middle of the storm. And I just remembered today that we never got any real closure or extending of the storyline about her calling her neurologist, which I think Becky and I talked about when she mentioned that she was calling her neurologist. Becky said that she thought she was calling just a regular therapist. And I thought, no, she's not going in for anything having to do with like PTSD. The neurologist wouldn't treat that. And we were both wrong. Or we were both right, actually, in a way. She is going to a neurologist and they do treat PTSD. It's just not talk therapy. It's different things that they do. And I'm very worried that Dr. Owl is going to crash at some point. We need her. She can't. Dr. She's the only thing holding all this together.
Yeah, she sits, so many I need to wrap in bubble wrap and just have them sit in quiet room listening to that new agey soothing music, breathing in some incense.
Or doing the Megan Thee Stallion affirmations.
Yes, over and over again.
Oh, yeah. And Becky's next note here is Judgy Joy.
Oh my gosh, Sassy Joy came out.
Which kind of surprised me that she, of all the characters, was the one that was being pretty judgy about that. On the one hand, it's not that it's okay. It is not okay. I kind of understand it in a way because before, when I was younger, I was pretty judgy about people leaving their kids in the car. And how could you ever do that? How could that ever be possible? This was pre-children, mind you, before I realized that they are like liquid sometimes. You can do it. The best mother in the world can't and shouldn't really have her child under her eyeball 24/7. That's not healthy either. And things just happen. And I actually had a friend whose child died this way. And for all the people out there that say there's no way that you could ever forget a baby in a car, you've clearly never had a newborn and understood how incredibly exhausted, or any children really, parents are humans. They get tired. And my friends, they are kind, compassionate, loving people. They already had several children. She was an attorney and it was the first day back. And so that was one change in her routine. And then I think her kid had been sick. And then this was the first day that one of her other kids was going back to daycare. And it was another change in the routine. She had her mind in a million different places, probably exhausted. She took the baby, put the baby in the car carrier, took the other one, dropped them off at school. And when she came back, the baby was sleeping and her mind was just already on the other things that she needed to do. And she forgot to get the baby out of the car. And it's the most horrible thing that can happen to a parent. Your child dying is already a hideous nightmare, but to know that you could have prevented it if you had been there is just a hell I could not wish on my worst enemy. That's just that poor, poor, poor woman.
Yeah, and my niece, mom's car, among everything else, decided to die. So we had to go car shopping. But in the meantime, my niece has been driving my car. And when you turn off the car, it's a thing that pops up in the dash that says check rear seats. And she asked me, why would they tell you to check your rear seats? And I was like, because it was bad for a long time where parents were leaving their kids in the car, not on purpose. Most of the time it was big, just like you said, just frazzled brain, a lot going on. And unfortunately that happened. So that's why they put that reminder.
I think that's a great thing that they're doing. And they also do it on the overpasses sometimes too, in the hot months. The signs in the interstate, at least here in Tennessee, it'll say like, check your rear before you get out of the car. I looked it up. It's 37 to 38 children a year that die of heat stroke after being left in hot cars in the U.S. It was up to 39 in 2024, which I guess is the last year we have a statistic on it.
It's sad.
It is. It is just awful. And then, of course, there are people that do awful, horrible things to their kids, and there are people who have done it deliberately. But the vast majority are just
it's just an
terrible,
accident.
Tragic accidents. Yeah. So awful.
Well, I hated it when Dr. Al was talking to her and was explaining that he may have cognitive impairment because of how long he was unresponsive. And the way the mom slowly releases her son's hand, I think spoke volumes. And I think that was her at that moment. That was her resolve, that she was like, I'm a horrible person. I did this to my kid. And then she goes out into traffic. And thank God, Dr. Al stepped outside of her normal by the book thing and went after her and basically saved her. And now she's going on a very important psych hold, which this young lady really, really needs it. But did you notice when Dr. Al is asking her questions when Robbie's in the room with her, and she asks the mom if she's ever thought of hurting herself, the camera stayed on Robbie's face?
Yeah, I definitely picked up on that.
Interesting.
And honestly think that Dr. Al picked up on that as well. I have noticed that Dr. Al is clocking Robbie. Like, this felt like this episode, she was really dialing in, and she's about to piss Robbie off by diagnosing him with CPTSD, is my guess. I think she's going to have a come to Jesus with him about how his stress is what is driving all of these people to be at their breaking point. Like the way that he runs this ER, and you know what? I am going to hold it because I know we're going to get into Mohan later. And I think that's a good place for us to really dive into that.
I have what he says to Mohan. I have a lot that goes into what I think Robbie's going to need. So
we'll get into that there.
All right, well, let's switch gears to Elbow Guy and follow Santos around for a minute before we get further in. Oh, my God.
That man, I wanted to cry watching that. I actually didn't watch it. I did turn my eyes away. And just
I watched it because it was fat. I love
because you're a sicko. Of course you did.
I am a sicko. But it's neat to me how they explain the procedure and what they're doing and watching.
I just can't watch it.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. But here's the things that made me laugh about this moment is when Dana asks Santos to pick up the patient and she's like, all right. And Dana's like, what? No fussing? And Santos is like, I surrender. I got 2 hours left on this shift. I surrender. I was like, that's funny. And then Dana's just like, well, that's the spirit. Love that. And then I want to give a shout out. My friend Amy Davis works for a minor league baseball team. And I don't know how much any of our listeners are into minor league baseball. It's amazing the work that these guys do and how much fun they make a baseball game. I'm not talking about your Savannah Bananas. That's a whole different thing. I'm just talking about regular minor league baseball. And I want to say the Storm Chasers is a real minor league team in Nebraska. Kudos to the show for bringing in something real. And I saw on Instagram that they shouted out the show on their Instagram page and invited Whitaker to come to any game anytime.
Aww,
that was cute.
Yeah, that's very cool. You know, we are a baseball family.
Yes.
Everybody, the men, especially in my house, live, breathe, eat, and sleep baseball. So I thought about, my husband doesn't watch the show, but I thought about calling him in to see that one. I don't think he would have thanked me for watching them.
Probably not, but he would have appreciated it.
He would have laughed about the way that he was not giving up that baseball.
He was not. But here's something I noticed. First, I had to laugh when Santos is like, you're not one of those guys that steals baseballs from kids, because that happens a lot.
Yeah.
These grown-ass people stealing balls that little kids were catching.
I was about to say men, but no, it's not even just men. I've seen several stories of women doing it too. Just gross.
It's just dumb. But he was like, I would never do that. No, I would never. He was like so offended that she thought that.
Well, and then we find out later that he had a ball stolen from him. So that was like the worst thing that you could possibly call him as a ball stealer.
But I noticed when they did the relocation on his arm, he was no longer holding that ball. Was that just a slip?
No, I don't know. I was going to ask you about that. I'll go back and rewatch it after we get off and see, because I clocked it the first time we watched it, and I meant to go back and really pay attention the second time, and I forgot. So yeah,
I'm curious,
because that would be really weird. Because that's the whole point of him not
putting him in a sling so he can still hold the ball. But then when they go do the procedure, he still had the ball at the end of his part of the episode, but it wasn't in his hand when they were doing the thing. So if he didn't need it in that hand, why wouldn't he just put it I don't know. It was weird. I needed something else to focus on in this episode. So that man's ball is it.
Maybe when he was actually in the middle of the procedure that he was asking for, he realized, medicine or no medicine, I can't keep hold of this because this shit hurts too bad.
Yeah,
so maybe that was just a real painful lesson that he ended up learning.
That's fair. I laughed my ass off at Mel. She was not having it with those two fighting over who was going to do the chart notes for this patient. And she's just like, I'm just going to set this down here. And then, of course, Donnie's non-reaction to all the crazy. Donnie is all of us with the world blowing up around us. And he's just like, I've seen this shit all day long.
He's going to be a great dad. He's already learned to tune out dumb shit.
Yeah. All right.
Duh.
Here we go. I want to start with saying I loved how Langdon talked to Dr. Al about what happened with Santos. And this gave me hope that he was going to go to Santos and do the apology the way I had hoped he was going to do it. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to read my thoughts on the Langdon side. We can discuss. And then I want to read my thoughts on the Santos side. And then we can discuss. And then we can move on to the rest of the episode. So here's what I wrote in my notes. Langdon did well with Al's questions about Santos. Why couldn't he have gone that route with Santos? That did not go the way I'd hoped. When he walked over to her, I literally had my hands clasped in prayer saying, please get this right. Please get this right. Both of these characters are flawed in their handling of this situation. Langdon is a good doctor whom I believe really is working the steps. Is he handling it perfectly? No. But you don't just wake up in the morning and all of a sudden you're perfect when it comes to recovery. It is a lifelong process. However, I think he is very naive or just ignorant, missing the privilege that he's had in his life and with his ability to continue to practice medicine. You cannot make it about you when you're trying to make amends with someone. He missed the boat on this round, and I hope he gets another chance.
I agree with every single bit of that. I think that's...
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I was like, I don't want to...
I know this is always a hot button with us because we tend to see that, and honestly, I've thought a lot about it. I don't think it's that we tend to see things differently. I think we talk a lot about bias on here. I think it's that we identify more strongly with, and there are reasons, like there are just recent things that have happened in both of our lives that, well, not just recent things, there are things that have happened in our lives that have made you identify more strongly with Langdon and his struggle and me with Santos. So I think that's why we get a little, because we feel we're like thinking of other people when we're talking about those two characters.
Yes.
And so we can get in the moment, it can feel really emotional because you're really thinking about these other people. That being said, I think it's been so cool. Like, I hate that sometimes we get a little tense about it, but I also love it because I think it's made us stronger in the way that we communicate with each other, because we really do share the same brain most of the time. That's why it's kind of crazy when we don't agree. But the reality is, through talking about this, I think we see that we really agree more than we don't agree.
Yeah.
We just weren't seeing it from the other person's side initially. And now I think we think about this pretty multidimensionally. And Langdon, he's not a character I identify with a great deal, but I also love that this show refuses to make anyone a saint or a monster. And everything you said is spot on. I think that the one thing that he didn't do there, in my opinion, is he did not address the fact that it wasn't just about him being an asshole. I think in Santos's head, the real crime was he was stealing drugs and lied about it and lied on her and made her look like a fool. And that was what he never apologized for. I think that's why she got so angry. But I also think that she has got to get a handle on her attitude and her inability to take herself out of the equation. And the way that she approached that was just childish. It's just childish. And she's got to learn to, I don't know what the word, regulate her own emotions better if she's going to be a good doctor.
Well, here's what I wrote down about Santos. Santos has great potential to be a phenomenal doctor. And I do see her point. She had every right to let her feelings fly all over Langdon. And I get her wanting him to out himself, but I don't think Santos is a pariah or outcast or whatever, however she wants to look at it, because she ratted out Langdon. As it's been pointed out in this season, nobody else knows except for her, Robbie, and Langdon that she reported him. So
Mhm.
she's not, her feeling that tension of being a pariah has nothing to do with Langdon.
Yeah.
It's how people have pointed out to her. And like you just said, it's because of her behavior with staff and most patients.
Yeah.
I do not think she is in the right to make the demand that she made of him.
Mm-mm.
If she wasn't happy with how Robbie chose to handle the situation with Langdon, then she could have gone straight to the medical board, like she said.
And I want to pause for a second. Everybody out there, it's the anti-Santoses that are like, yeah, Santos, but, she was shitty and he was just doing the right, all that. I want to listen to what Becky said. She could have reported him and she chose not to. So whatever's coming out of Santos's mouth without her running it through a filter first, as she should, at the end of the day, this is why I love that character, because deep down, she knew that it would be the wrong thing to ruin his career over this situation. And she didn't. She could have, and she did not do that. So just give her that small glimmer of grace.
Yep.
If you're like I was with Langdon, if Santos triggers you the way that he used to trigger me, then just keep that little glimmer in mind, and maybe you can give her a little bit of forgiveness.
Very proud of us getting through this conversation. I was ready. I was like, as I'm typing my notes, I was like, man, we're going to fight. And look at us.
Oh, no. I was dreading it too.
This is one of the most interesting storylines of the season. We knew it was going to be good before the season even aired. And I want to tip my hat to Patrick Ball and Issa Briones, because there's a lot of characters with a lot going on, but this storyline is so compelling, and it's because of these two actors and how they deliver it. It made me think of Serena Joy on The Handmaid's Tale. And Mandy, I know you don't watch The Handmaid's Tale, but Serena Joy is a villain. She is a bad human being. She helped create this horrid Gilead place. But the way Yvonne Strahovski played her character in the show, there were moments where you were actually rooting for her, and she just made the character complex. And I like that about Santos. She is complex. She is not black and white. That girl is 50 Shades of Grey without the whips and chains. Although I don't know, I could see Santos.
We don't know what they get
cracking a
into
whip every
other
now
than
and then.
eating Chinese food or ramen or whatever.
Yeah. So I love it. I love where this is taking us. And I love that while we know Robbie's not perfect and all this is showing, I don't know, it's just so good. And
again, it's like, I love that they don't make anybody an uber villain and no one is a saint. There's just shades of gray.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, yay. Good for us.
Learning and growing.
Oh, I'm ready to go now. So next up, we have Ogilvy and Mohan, and then / Ogilvy and McKay. My first note is everyone asking Mohan if she's okay, and her "I'm fine" is me right now.
Yeah.
And I would love for them to keep pairing Joy and Mohan together, because I don't know what it is. They do it every season. The way they pair these doctors together with the students and whatnot, it just works. Having Ogilvy with McKay for that thing we'll get to in just a minute, but I just loved it. And I love Joy championing mental health medications. I've been doing that with several people in my life who I think need it right now. And I love that she's just open about it.
Yeah, me too. Mental health medication saved my life. It genuinely saved my life. It breaks my heart when I see people. I mean, it's that openness about medication, because at one point in my life, I had grown up with this idea that you were somehow weak or shameful. It's like telling somebody you're weak because you need medication for heart disease. Like, just tell your heart to suck it up and keep going on. Symptoms like depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, all of these are not because you can't suck it up and put your big girl panties on. Yes, your mindset does have to do with it, but it's not like you can just wave a magic wand and say, okay, I'm going to think happy thoughts today and all that's cured. That's not how it works. Nope. That's the really fascinating thing about what I learned about the neuroscience treating PTSD is it's like you're literally learning to hardwire your brain. And medication, for most of these issues, there's not a medication that's just going to quote unquote cure you, but it's the difference between feeling like you're carrying 100-pound sack of rocks on your back and a 1-pound sack of rocks on your back. And it may take a minute to get it right, but if you're having problems and you haven't tried medication before, I'm a firm believer that you should at least talk to your doctor about it.
Yep. We are both big advocates, and there is no shame in doing whatever you can do to help yourself feel better and be better. It's great.
And be there for yourself and for the people that love you and care about you.
Yeah. So we get Mrs. Torres, who has a very, very painful looking injury, and we find out it's possible blood clot.
15 hours on a bus?
Yeah. But she ends up bolting and isn't going to get treatment because of ice. And we're going to get to that later. But so I have a feeling that's going to come back. She's going to come back into the picture.
I really think we need to stop here, though, and celebrate. This is the first fuck ice of this episode, and it's going to happen a lot as we move forward. So just ding, ding, and ringing the bell. Congratulations. We've just gotten to the first fuck ice.
Fuck ice. Yeah. There's many more to come. All right. Shifting gears into Ogilvy. But he made a big jump this week. Ogilvy went from 0.06% on the likable scale. He's moved into 12% on the likable scale. That's a big jump.
That is a huge jump.
I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
First, he started off in typical Ogilvy fashion, jonesing over another intubation so he can get some kind of stupid record.
Yeah, I love that he said third intubation this week. Probably a record.
Yeah, so funny.
Yeah.
And then he passes Mohan. He's like, I heard you had a heart attack. And I mean, I don't know. It just made me laugh. I'm like, okay.
We're
getting to see fun Ogilvy.
Yeah.
Where he started to grow in my heart. I feel like the Grinch with Ogilvy, and my heart with him just gets a little bit bigger each time. So when he's going to help McKay, first off, that man crossing the street was the funniest shit I've ever seen.
That was so funny.
I see organ donation in my future, which, by the way, if you aren't an organ donor, please register. I work for a company, nonprofit that does organ donation. And I had no idea that the entire human body, most of the human body, can be used to help people. So please look into it, read up on it. And if you aren't a registered donor, please go register to donate and talk to your families about it. You can really help a lot of people that way. So that made me laugh out loud.
In the meantime, keep crossing at the crosswalk, guys.
Yeah, I'm big on that. My friend... When my friend Lauren and I were going to San Francisco back when I was single and had money to blow, and we were going to watch football games every year, and she would want to cross the street, I'm like, I'm going down to the crosswalk, mainly because I didn't want to get arrested.
Oh, I was like, okay.
I've seen people get arrested for jaywalking.
You can't get arrested for that in Nashville anymore?
I'm glad.
Yeah. No, you can't get arrested for jaywalking in Nashville anymore.
Oh, well, you should, because there's too many people getting hit.
Yeah, you're right. You should keep doing it. I'm just saying, I am definitely a McKay sometimes. If there ain't no traffic coming, I have definitely been known to, yeah.
Yeah. I'm the one who's going to wait for the flashing light to tell me, please walk.
You're the non-squashed one that's
Yes. I'm the one who's going to be like calling 911.
Calling the organization. She is a donor.
Like, she is an organ donor.
Oh.
But what I really liked about this was how he's still got that biased, bigoted mindset in his head that drug addicts are bad, overweight people are bad, that and it was very telling that he just doesn't understand why people let themselves get to where they are.
Right.
This whole episode, from the first scene to the last, is a lot about privilege. And Ogilvy has his own privilege. And I think him sitting there, it was a great choice to have him be the one to go with McKay. And I like that she snapped at him when he was like, I don't understand how people could do that. And she's like, maybe to numb abuse or this or that. And she's laying out for him. There are a lot of reasons why people turn to the things that they turn to, be it food or drugs, whatever, because that's their coping mechanism. I'm not, it's just life. And obviously he's never had to see that. So I'm glad that he had to sit there with this young lady, see what she was going through and learn and understand there's a reason for these things. And I loved it when McKay said, we're healers, not judges. And I think that really sunk in with him. And I think this was a nice choice by the writers, because this is, like I said, I think this is him learning lessons about his privilege. And then you see later on, when we're here in a second, when we get into what happened with Mohan, you could see how much this is all starting to affect him. And I see him learning and growing.
Yeah. I mean, definitely in this episode, he showed some real glimmers of having a heart underneath all that and feeling compassion and concern and responsibility for his patient. And, you know, something that I think was a theme of this episode, and it came up here and with Javadi crying and not being able to control herself when Roxy was passing, and being kind of judgy about, you know, the medication being what ended her life and not feeling comfortable with that. And then Mel in a couple of places, just like it really hits home how young these people are, how young these student doctors are. You know, Joy's issues with the mother that came in. I think, and we're going to get into where I think they explored this a little bit too in another storyline here in a second, but I think one of the things they're showing is just, you know, how you come into the ER with all of these preconceived notions, and time and experience is what starts to work on those. And if you're a good doctor, get you to a place where, like she says, we are here to treat, not to judge, where physicians are not judged, or however she put it. Man, I love McKay. I love her. I wish that we knew her in real life. She'd love us. She'd be hanging with us all the time.
I think so.
She's just the heart. Really, I truly do think in a lot of ways, her and Dana are like the heart of the show.
Yeah. I like how Ogilvy immediately took responsibility after Shamsi comes in. And then I love that he asked to see it all the way through with the patient. That's where I'm like, he's got potential.
Yeah.
He's learning humility. That was a big lesson in humility for him from start to finish. And I love that story. It impacted me. And what really got me, so when Robbie, after all is said and done, Ogilvy goes to Robbie and apologizes. And Robbie pats him on the shoulder and says, this happens. I don't remember exactly what he said, but basically, you're fine. Mistakes like this happen. This is how we learn. Mohan goes to him and says, I'm so sorry. I should have asked him. And Robbie lets her have it. What he said to her, he said, you have to see these walls like a force field. You cannot let anything in. You keep everything out there. That is the difference between the best doctors and the ones that don't make it. And I wrote here in my notes, how is that working out for you, Robbie? And then his shitty sigh at her not thinking when she flat out says, maybe I don't belong here and I worry that we're losing Mohan. And my last note is, I think Robbie needs a 72 hours involuntary psych hold. And I hope that might be where we're headed.
I don't know, but I have some pretty complex thoughts about that scene.
I feel like he was being, his misogyny was showing. I know Ogilvy's younger and a student, and I do agree that Mohan should have given more of a dressing down about not following up with her student. But that comment about keeping your life outside, your mommy's not in here, that was inappropriate.
Yeah, it definitely was inappropriate. So my thoughts watching that, one, yes, I do think in general we agree that Robbie's got some issues with misogyny. I don't know how much of that was really at play in the scene, except that it just lends to his overall history with women in general in the workplace. But I do think it was more of the issue of Ogilvy is still learning and Mohan is supposed to be supervising him and was in the more senior position, and she's closer to being a full-fledged doctor. So part of Robbie's job is to make her, not lay into her, but to make her aware and to reiterate to her, this is why you have a higher level of responsibility here, et cetera, et cetera. I'm sure that Dr. Al or even McKay would have really nailed getting that lesson over to Mohan without beating her down. But I also had a thought this week that I think that part of why Robbie and Mohan seem to always get back to this place where she feels inadequate to what his standard of a doctor is, even though she clearly wants to live up to that standard. And he keeps saying the absolute worst thing to him, because I noticed, and I went back and rewatched his face once she said, maybe I don't belong here. And that's where it landed. You could see in his eyes, that was a failure. And he knew it was a failure. He knew that he had failed as a teacher in that moment, every bit as much as he was saying she had failed with that patient.
Okay, I like that. I saw it as an exasperated, oh, here we go again sigh. I like the way you're
Oh, I think that was
framing
part
this.
of, I mean, because of where Robbie's at mentally. Even though in his heart, like you saw, like for instance, that scene where he's talking to Mel and he's asking her, and you see the good teacher in Robbie there for a second, where, as Dr. Al said last episode, how do we get some more empathy back in you? You see it trying to come out when he's talking to Mel and he's asking her, do you have anybody to talk to? And then before she can even finish, he's off to the next thing.
He's gone.
Because he's micromanaging so hard that he is no longer effective. He is the detriment now in the ER. And I know this is maybe, I hope I'm not pissing off any Robbie fans, because I think Robbie, fantastic character.
Yeah, but that's another, he's very complex, and I love.
He is not a saint either. He's not perfect. And that's the problem. None of us are. We're all human beings. And Robbie is trying so hard. He is holding on so hard to this ER that he is what the cancer that is now bringing it down in a way. And I think that's part of what Dr. Al is clocking, is that his PTSD is so aggressive and unchecked that it is now affecting everybody in his orbit. But at any rate, I do think the Robbie of 5 years ago probably would have had a very different conversation with Mohan. This is just where he is right now. And that's why he screwed up that entire interaction so badly. But I also think part of his deal with Mohan, I won't call it a beef, because I think he likes her. I think he respects her. I just think that he possibly, we're going to find out that the Robbie that started at her age was a lot like Mohan. And he almost, I think, sees that maybe in his mind, he thinks this is not the right place for her, or she's going to be mentally destroyed the way that he is now.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And I may be reading something into that, but that's kind of what I think with that Mohan bothers him, that like he sees her as this kind, compassionate, empathetic person. It just to survive, it seems like he's cut off most of his access to real empathy. And I think he just sees that could be her future too, if she stays in the ER.
That's quite possible. Okay, here we go. Fuck ICE.
One more time. Say it again for the folks in the back.
Fuck ICE.
Fuck ICE.
So we get this sweet, sweet, injured and scared detainee, Pranita, and I will be referring to them as douchebag 1 and douchebag 2. So that's who the agents are. Douchebag 1 still wearing his mask, won't let her make a phone call, wouldn't even let her get the damn sling she needed. They were flat out abusing her. I think they caused her injury, no matter how they wanted to try to put it as something she did got knocked down when running. And I thought it was very sweet that Jesse tried to step up and do the right thing and help her. And then, unfortunately, he gets arrested. Just a kudos to this actress. I meant to look her up, but I was doing these notes so late last night, I didn't get to, but I will make sure to look her up and give her credit next week. But that was Emmy-worthy acting right there.
Yeah.
I felt
her pain and her fear.
Yes.
All of it, all while, and when I literally, I mean her pain, like going through all of that, having to, being in the worst moment of your life and then having an injury like that. And for all the people out there that might be saying, the crazy thing about being online this week after that episode dropped,
people were triggered.
How many people that are still watching this show that are like, well, when did it get political? The first episode?
Yeah.
Like, what show are they watching? I'm genuinely confused by that. And I would say if you are conservative and you listen to this show, please write in and tell us, don't Save your time. I don't want to hear it.
There's no excuse.
It just doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense to me how you could have not clocked that the show definitely has picked a side since episode 1. But at any rate, yeah, that whole thing of she's not only is this the worst day of her life, but now she's injured and she's in a hospital and she can't even call home. She's in excruciating pain and she can't even call to tell her kid where she's at. And the people out there that are saying, well, they did the right thing and they brought her in for treatment before they take her. Bullshit. They brought her in because legally they had to do the bare fucking minimum.
And they did the bare fucking minimum.
And then fucked that up.
I really liked the McKay, Dana, and Robbie reactions here. I wrote my notes. McKay feels helpless. She wants to help her by getting in touch with her family. Dana is me. Dana was just fucking pissed. And Robbie was I feel very empathetic of Pranita's situation, but he was accepting of his limits.
I don't know about that. I thought that too, Becky. But then did you hear when Dr. Al said, how are we on trying to get a lawyer for our ICE detainee I think she used the phrase ICE detainee. And he was like, nope, he didn't try.
Aha, I wrote that down in my notes. I was like, he just lied to Dr. Al. But when you go back and watch this episode again, when Jesse gets arrested and they're on their way out, he looks at maybe Dana, he looks at somebody and says, can you call the hospital attorney again?
Okay. All right.
I was pissed too. I was like, that's messed up.
All right, I'm gonna let you off with that one, Robbie. I didn't think it was because he didn't want to. I thought it was just part of his weird nothing matters except this ER and what's going on right this moment in this ER, and I don't want to get involved in anything else. I thought it was coming from that. So good on you, Robbie. All right, I'm glad that was
I was right there with you. I was like, this son of a bitch. And then I was like, oh, okay, sorry, Robbie. Of all the emotional outbursts that he's had,
that was my favorite.
And this is our opening clip for this episode. Just an FYI, it's him going the F off on that ICE agent. And he's right. People don't think about, no one is safe with ICE around. ICE, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that's protecting people. You look at Alex Peretti. You look at people being detained, separated from their families. We talked about it last week, and have no idea where they are. And when ICE shows up, people run. So Robbie's point is you've got a hospital full of diverse people, and whether they're documented or undocumented, it doesn't matter. They have a right to medical attention. You have hospital staff who are documented still going home because they're afraid they're going to get arrested because ICE isn't doing what they're doing.
Right. They're trying to hit a fucking quota. This is a good time, I think, Becky, to talk about EMTALA. Dana references EMTALA as the reason that these people have a right to health care. So, because we love to educate ourselves, I didn't know what that was. EMTALA is the abbreviation for the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act, which was enacted in 1986 to ensure that everybody would have access to emergency medical treatment, even if they did not have the money to pay for their services. Because that's the fucking humane thing to do. The law requires hospitals to provide every person who comes in with a complaint with a medical screening examination, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. If the patient's condition calls for it, the hospital must provide stabilizing treatment or transfer them to an appropriate facility if they are not capable of doing so. So I think when these bigots keep talking about mass healthcare for undocumented people in this country, there's definitely not an expert. There may be states where there's state-sponsored insurance that you can get and not be documented. I really don't know about that. But in general, it is not a huge problem for the American taxpayer. But they are required to give them emergency medicine if they go into an emergency room, which is just humane and what we should be doing.
Yes. So I applaud Robbie for laying it out for the people at home, for all the viewers. And I want to say, if you were triggered by this episode in a way of it's too political, I would ask you to reevaluate what you think is right and wrong. Because if you think that was right, I would really like you to stop and reevaluate.
This is hard to talk about because I don't want to keep. It's a TV show, and while we don't shy away from the heavy episodes, this is such a heavy thing, and it's such a quagmire. It's really hard to not just completely go off on a tangent about just how fucked up it is that they're doing this to people in this country.
I think we can leave it at that. This is fucked up, and I hope everyone watching this learns the downside of what has happened by putting them on the streets and allowing them no governance to just go and do whatever they feel like they want to do. These are untrained people who don't have the qualifications to be doing what they're doing. And I feel like they're doing it very badly and causing more harm than good. And I don't think we are any safer with ICE around.
Yeah, a lot of them couldn't make it in local police academies. A lot of them don't have any background in that. They definitely are not getting any kind of training on de-escalation or any of that stuff. They're rushed through as quickly as they can. They're given a $100,000 bonus. A lot of them are just people with a weird fantasy of being a cop and having power over people. Like you notice that one guy at the end, like when Robbie went off on him, that was all retaliatory.
He was
over
pissed,
there.
So
he was just going to go over there and bully somebody to make himself feel better because he had to sit and take it when Robbie told him to get the hell out of his ER. Personally, though, I also want to be clear. I think we should have health care for everybody. Call me crazy.
Right. And you need help. You should get that help. It should not be you're not good enough because you don't have this or you don't. That's not what. Yeah.
I'm a Christian, and I know that that's not just an exclusively Christian principle.
That's a human decency principle.
It's a human decency principle, but it really grosses me out to hear these people who have co-opted Christianity for themselves say the most unhinged shit about actual human beings, justifying the murder of innocent people, families being ripped apart, people being sent with their kids to countries they didn't even come from. And they do it, and they still claim that they're great Christians. And I just want to point out that is just some really unhinged, unchristian shit.
It's the exact opposite of what a Christian is supposed to be and what Jesus taught us.
Yeah.
Which leads me to our last note. What the fuck, Monica?
Okay, so go ahead and say why you said that.
I feel like I feel like there was more to the conversation than two people just happened to be chatting because they're in the same proximity of each other. I feel like the way they set it up, that Monica is on the side of what they're doing and maybe even giving tips or places they should go to do raids or something. I just don't feel like that was a good thing. And it bothered me.
Well, yeah, I didn't say that say what you're going to say, like I'm going to debate you. I meant let the audience know why you said what the fuck, Monica. It was because she was talking to the ICE agent at one point. I was ready to be pissed about it too when I think it was our friend Sam that pointed it out to me. I don't think I clocked it when I watched the episode the first time. But I personally still, maybe again, that's biased because I like Monica. I'm holding out that was just her standing there and he was doing all the talking, and what was she going to do? Because I didn't see anything in the scene that made me think that she was especially chummy for him. But I do think that you could be right because it would make sense. There are a lot of people out there that have no problem with all of this shit. And some of those people are in healthcare, and Monica has shown she's pretty old school. And the reason that I was kind of giving her more of a benefit of the doubt was that conversation where Dana said they raided that restaurant, and she said, "Oh, I love that place." I kind of was taking that to mean like she's not in favor of it, but that definitely could point to a hint that maybe she's dropping a dime on people. If they're going to the restaurant that she loves and now they're at her workplace, maybe there may be something there.
Yeah, just the way their heads were so close together, like a hush-hush conversation, not just like somebody's just standing at your desk and you're talking to them while you're working. She wasn't working. She was very focused on that gentleman.
I didn't see that. To me, it looked like her head was kind of down and she was like writing or something, and he was talking to her head.
I don't know. I watched it twice and I saw it very differently.
I was ready to be mad at her. What I saw, I thought, okay, well, maybe that's not anything, but it absolutely could go the other way.
Yeah. Right now I'm mad. And I hope I'm wrong. I really
Right
do hope
on.
I'm wrong, because I don't want to sit here and tell people you shouldn't automatically assume things and that I'm automatically assuming things.
Well, no, it's a TV show and they definitely plant seeds. So you might be
and I
picking
feel
up on
like this
something.
show doesn't do shit that's not deliberate. And I felt that was deliberate, and I feel like it was because of that, but
Yeah,
I hope
it could
I'm
be.
wrong.
Could be.
Okay. Anything else for main points before we move into chart notes?
No. I feel bad for the listeners because I feel like I was not my most articulate talking about that, but it absolutely burns me up inside, just like the vast majority of people with compassion and humanity left in their body. It just, that whole thing, there's a reason that so many people are worked up about it, because it is incredibly disturbing and upsetting that this is going on in 2026 in America.
Yep. All right, let's move on to Mel and Becca. Poor Mel. She's having some high anxiety with Becca, and it was very, very strange to see Dr. King yelling. That was just weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
I think the her and Langdon relationship, I loved when they were outside talking and he's asking her questions and how he helped her get to why she's feeling the way she's feeling about Becca. And he's like, why did you choose this facility? Why did you put her there? Okay. And then it all comes back to because Becca is capable of making her own choices. And I liked how Langdon helped her get there.
He helped her get there on her own.
Yeah. And then I loved the callback to season 1 when Mel's on the stairs and Dana approaches her and she's like, thought I'd find you here because we saw it. Remember, she was looking at the lava lamp on her phone. And Dana is so wise. And I loved how understanding and compassionate she was, but not babying Mel about it and just basically telling her, look, and she's right. This is something, I do, and maybe other people with anxiety feel this too. When something is wrong with somebody that you care about, you are automatically thinking the worst, that it's on you. And I like Dana saying, whatever's going on with Becca, whatever choices she's making, probably doesn't have anything to do with you. This is just a young woman moving on to live her life. I love Becca's confidence in that she's going after what she wants and doing it in a mature way, where she talked about she learned during her body and health class and talking with her therapist about it, that she did not make this as a rash choice. I'm grateful this wasn't an abuse storyline.
Yeah.
But it made me sad. I felt Mel's pain when she finally got to the root of it, is that she does, like we had hoped. This is her understanding. All she has is her sister. She doesn't have a life outside of her sister. But how she wanted Becca to want to tell her about this, and she didn't. That was sad.
Yeah, and it's also two contradictory things. She wants that, but she also doesn't want that. Did you notice how she almost gagged every time she had to say the word sex?
Yeah, but I don't think that was as much just because it was Dana.
No.
Just because it was Becca was having sex. I think it's because Mel, that's like you said, she's asexual. That is not something that's important to her or ever been a thought of a need or a want.
Yeah.
But I do hope this leads to her realizing she needs to form friendships and find a life outside of her sister, and that we do get to see that. I know they don't show us a lot of the outside of the hospital scenarios, but I hope that we get to see her grow as her own person, creating a life for herself.
Me too. Yeah, I got a little nervous, especially that part where she's trying to talk to Robbie and he asks her who she has to turn to outside of work and then cuts her off before she can even finish. Remember last week we talked about how we think that partially it feels something like they're trying to kind of give us a red herring with this Robbie storyline, that he's going to be the one that's going to do something harmful to himself, and then it might be someone else. And then it flew through my head for a minute that Mel doesn't have anybody, and she might be the candidate of somebody who would turn to self-harm if they were in despair. I hope not. She's too sweet. I don't want to see that. I want to see that storyline that you talked about. I want to see her kind of take this moment and realize that she has made Becca her entire world. And she's got some resentment about that. Like, she mentioned Becca gets everything. That's what she said. Becca gets everything. And now she's going to leave me or, behind or whatever. But I thought Becca gets everything was really telling. I think that probably Mel's whole life, Becca has needed more.
Yeah.
And her parents instilled in her that Becca has to be taken care of. And we've talked about, I don't think she's aware that she's even on the spectrum because she's been so focused on Becca. And I looked that up after we talked last week. And it is very common, especially with twins, that the more, I can't remember what the terminology was that they used, but basically the one that needs less services is likely to not be diagnosed until later in life, if at all. But I think part of her has resented that, like that she always has to do what Becca wants. So hopefully what she's going to take from this is that she's the one that's been imposing that on herself and that she can let Becca be her own person and she can go be Mel.
Yeah. Like my hope is by the end of this episode, Santos has no one to hang out with tonight.
I thought
Mel
of that.
has no one to hang out with tonight, that they end up on the roof watching the fireworks and that they form an actual, not work superficial relationship. They actually form a friendship because they both need the same thing right now.
Yeah. And I think Whitaker was about to tell Santos he's moving out.
Well, he's trying to, but they got cut off. So yeah, that's definitely, and that might be another caveat that helps push Santos to being like, I need a friend. Somebody love me. And Mel's like, I love you. I've been trying to talk to you for 9 months.
Don't see that playing out. Either Santos saying, I love you, or Mel or Santos saying, I need a friend, or Mel saying, I love you. But they might absolutely end up on the
They're
roof.
They're going to say it. It's just going to not be in that way.
They're going to be like Ron Swanson always called his friends on Parks and Rec. They're going to be work proximity associates.
There you go. It's going to be Ron Swanson and what's Amy Poehler's character?
Oh, God. Leslie Knope.
Leslie Knope. God, I can't believe I just blanked that. I'm sorry, Amy Poehler.
Who's definitely listening to this podcast.
Yeah, well, you know she is. I listen to hers, dadgummit.
I do too. And she loves the Pit. I don't know if she's not listening, why she's not.
I'm about to get in her DMs and be like, hey, by the way, we got a great podcast if you want to listen to it and maybe even plug it on your podcast because we have plugged your podcast on our pod. I'm just saying.
It's only fair.
Right. But Santos would be Ron Swanson and Mel would be Knope. And they would have this beautiful friendship. But on the front, Ron Swanson would act like he doesn't care, but we know he does care. And Mel would just be, Santos would be like, hey, we're going to go have a drink. And Mel would be like, oh my God, this is it. It's happening. It's happening right now. That's how I'm seeing all this play out in my head.
If they were Parks and Rec's characters, Santos would definitely, I used to think she would be April, but she's not got enough whimsy for April. Joy's more April. She definitely is more Ron Swanson, I think, than anybody else. And Mel is probably the closest to Leslie Knope.
Yeah, for sure.
Close enough. Welcome back, Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I love that show.
It's one of my comfort shows.
Moving on to Javati. You touched on it earlier about Javati's struggle with Roxy's choice. I want to say I appreciate the work Shabana did in this episode. I've been mad with Javati most of the season, but I think she really stood out in this episode. The way she portrayed her struggle of understanding why they were giving Roxy this dose, but also still not feeling completely right about it, and how that came out emotionally was really beautiful. That silent scene, oh my God, Uda, that was so well directed. That whole thing, I knew everything everyone was feeling, and they did it just with their eyes, facial expressions, and one touch. They didn't exploit Roxy's death. We didn't have to see her pass. They barely even showed her in the scenes when it was panning between the three of them. Oh my God, I thought that was nicely done and very respectful in how they portrayed death. And that was some phenomenal acting.
It was really, really good acting. I was torn about it, and not really that there was anything right or wrong. It's just my emotions were kind of mixed about it. On the one hand, I know I said last week, I kind of wanted them to not show her death or her after she had passed. That was an emotionally satisfying way to bring that story to a close. I feel like we got a really emotionally satisfying end to the storyline about her kids and her family and Roxy's part of the story, Roxy's journey. I think we got that emotionally satisfying part of that last week. This week, we got the story of how being part of that emotionally impacts the doctors that are there. It was hard to see her laying there dead. Again, amazing. I don't know. That's one of the things I always wonder about with that. We need to ask somebody one time, like, how do you play dead? Like, that seems like that would just be a really difficult thing to do physically. But at any rate, it was impactful to see him, the husband, just silently sitting there like a bomb had gone off. And, the silent communication between Robbie and Javati didn't play out the way I wanted. But this is why I always say I trust these writers so much, because I think that we needed to see how this was going to impact Javati. And she'll never forget this. Like, this will be with her for the rest of her career. And it's probably the beginning of a journey of her grappling with sometimes putting aside her own beliefs to do the right thing for her patient.
Yep.
Even though, like, at 50-year-old Mandy is looking at that storyline and thinking, come on, Javati, like, you can't understand why it might be in the best interest of this terminally ill woman who's been fighting for 7 years to just have the medication that's going to help her to ease out of this life just a little bit, maybe 5 minutes sooner, but with far less pain. But then I thought about, like, from a 20-year-old, she's just turning 21. She's seen nothing. Again, this is another one of those moments where it hits home that these are children 2 or 3 years ago. And now they are having to grapple with really, really emotionally and physically complex things. And, none of us are at 21 who we're going to be at 50. So I think it's very realistic to show that she might be conflicted about being part of that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean,
Yeah.
You grow up thinking, especially in medicine, you ethical. But sometimes it was ethical what they did because of that thing that Robbie had already explained to us. They didn't do anything wrong, but I do understand her mindset but it just doesn't feel right. It's not,
Right.
And I think she did understand why they were doing it. I just think for her, it just didn't feel like the right thing to do.
I think it just felt like, in her mind, to a degree, I think she was thinking, I just helped to kill this woman and I'm here to be a doctor to bring life. That's what she was thinking. And I think that probably what you learn as you get older, and or most doctors learn especially if they stay in that scenario, is that it's not that black and white. It's sometimes the compassionate thing to do for your patient is to make their death as painless as possible, even if that speeds up their death by a day or two.
Or an hour. I mean, because they thought it was going to be hours and it was quick.
And it was quick. And that's the thing, most of us learn at some point in life that, when you have a family member or a loved one who is diagnosed with terminal illness and the doctors give a diagnosis of, say, 3 to 6 months, that's just an average. They don't know. I mean, there are signs, and science can tell them some things, but it's almost impossible in almost every situation for a doctor to say, without intervention, you're going to die at 11:59:06 p.m. next Thursday night. That's just not how it works. Some of it is a crapshoot, and it's just about how much your body responds to certain things. And at a certain point, the right thing to do as a doctor is to try to make their patient as comfortable and pain-free as possible as they go through something that we're all going to go through.
Yep. I liked when poor Ogilvy did his mess up, and Dr. Shamsi automatically assumes it was her daughter that did it. And Ogilvy jumped up and was like, nope, that was my fault. And then Dr. Robbie says, Victoria, he never calls her Victoria. So I loved that. Victoria, why don't you glove up and show Dr. Shamsi why you belong in the ED? I
didn't even notice he called her Victoria.
Yeah. Thank God for subtitles. I might not have either. And then my last note here, after she's frustrated with everything with Roxy, and you could tell she's trying to process it. So she's like, I'm going to go get some patients. And then she rings the bell. I just thought of Louie. Every time that bell rings, I thought of Louie.
An angel gets their wings.
Yeah. All right, Dana, just a few notes. She parented her ass off in this episode. I loved it when she looked at Robbie and he was like questioning if he was going to be able to get out on time. And she's like, well, we can handle this. The question is, will you let us? And you mentioned it earlier in this podcast that he's micromanaging his ER and doesn't know when to step away. And then her exasperation at him when he made that snide comment about Dr. Al and how he can play nice for another 2 hours. And then when she tells Mohan to sprinkle some salt on her patient before he seizes because his sodium was so low.
Oh, Dana.
Busting Mel on the bat phone.
Yeah, that was funny. Poor Mel. Who should not have been spying on her sister anyway, but
Right. But she's like, it kind of is an emergency. Dana's like, hang it up. And then snapping at Monica about moving Roxy. And then the way she comforted Lena and offered to find someone to cover. But I do hope that Dana does not think she can do another 12-hour shift and that she's the one who ends up covering and sends her spiraling.
what I think that is them setting up, because I realized this week we got 1 more hour left in their shift. How are they going to stretch this out for 3 more episodes this time?
And reinforcements are coming.
Yes, but obviously a lot of the staff is going to, for whatever reason, stay involved for the next 3 episodes. Last season, it was the mass casualty. So everybody had to stay and it was all hands on deck. I don't think they're going to recreate that. So I'm curious to see. We're going to be finding out, I'm assuming next episode, how they're going to end up keeping the major players in the hospital for the next 3 episodes. I think that was their way of like explaining why Dana is going to be there.
For a little bit longer. That's good. Is I just don't want her to be there for another 12 hours.
Yeah. God love her.
All right. Patient updates. Howard lives. He made it through surgery. Park the Shark, who I still don't care for, but I respect everyone else's opinion that he was in fact a true, what's the word, Mandy? Comparison to real life.
An accurate portrayal.
Thank you. Thank you. Accurate portrayal.
Girl, our Alzheimer's has really been acting up.
Holy cow. Okay. Words hard.
Yeah.
It's like the season 1 finale of Buffy after graduation when Giles is like trying to have a conversation with her and she's just like, words hard. I just saved this entire city. Again, I need a break. But anyway, Park the Shark is operating on the severed leg. Baby Jane Doe is still waiting on foster placement. I put in parentheses, come on, Dr. Collins. And Duke has a tumor in his mediastinum, and I think this show is trying to kill me because I thought we were getting closure with the cancer storylines with Roxy, but that is exactly where my mother's tumor is, and it is gigantic, and it is pressing on a lot of things, causing a lot of problems, but hers unfortunately did turn out to be cancer. I hope Duke's is not, and it's something that they can fix. So Duke says, when Robbie says they need to do a CT scan, and Duke asks how long that's going to take, and Robbie's obviously a little frustrated that it's like 2 to 3 hours, and Duke asks him if he's going to stick around, and Robbie says, I wouldn't feel right writing if I were to rush this. When Duke looked at Robbie and said, this is important, was he talking about Robbie sticking around because what's wrong with Duke is a big deal? Or was he talking about Robbie needing to go on this ride? I couldn't tell which one.
I think that was a bit of, what's the word? A subtle foreshadowing. That's not the right word. Words hard. Words are hard. I think it was a little bit of, they were using it as a metaphor a bit. Like, I think double entendre. That's the word I'm looking for. Golly.
So
sorry.
It could have been both.
Yeah. Sorry, Kendrick Lamar. No, I don't think it was. Here's what I think. I think that it was Robbie saying, I wouldn't feel right about riding. You could have inserted the words off of a cliff right there. I think Robbie's got a plan. I just feel like he's got a bad plan for himself. And getting Duke okay, in his mind, one of the tasks that he has to check off before he feels comfortable about doing whatever it is he's got planned for himself. So what he really meant was, I wouldn't feel comfortable about leaving and walking away from everything or killing myself or whatever he's going to do until we get you taken care of. When the character said this is important, I think what he was saying for him as a character was, oh shit, this is a big deal. But also, I think what the writers were wanting us to hear was exactly what you heard, that this storyline, like this is important to Robbie and this storyline.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. All right. I don't want to talk about it, but we have to talk about it. So we get this fucking patient who comes in, and I wrote in my notes, this is male privilege at its finest. So you compare, this guy was brought in after playing golf with some douchebag, another douchebag. We'll call him douchebag number 3. And he was showing signs of aggressive behavior, seriously bad blood alcohol level. And they sedated him. So they just leave him in a room by himself with no supervision. Doctors and nurses go in and out of there like it's no big deal.
He's not handcuffed.
Nothing. Even
He's
though
not
the guy
zip-tied.
was physically aggressive, which is why they had to sedate him to bring him in. That to me is male privilege. I think it's also white male privilege, because I think had that been a black patient or a person of color, it might have gone a bit differently. So that pisses me off. So I'm a little mad at Donnie right now, for he really downplayed that whole thing. Well, he was going to sleep it off for a while or whatever. I love Donnie. I'm not saying Donnie's bad, but I don't like the way he handled that. And because of that, this guy wakes up with sweet Emma just trying to take his vitals, and now he has attacked her. So who knows what's going to happen. I hope Dana busts in there with the fax machine and just beats him senseless or something.
Not the fax machine. They need that.
True, good point. But I would love to see somebody beat down by a fax machine.
I do like this next note here, which I will go ahead and read for you.
Yes, that's why I put it in there. You talk about learning humility. I'm learning to humble myself and allow you to have these moments.
Well, it says Mandy was right, but I'm actually going to amend that to say kind of. I did mention that I felt like something could potentially put Emma in danger. I don't think this guy's going to. I think they're going to get her out. He had her in a chokehold. He didn't have her. And they were already, weren't they at the end running into her?
I did not notice that they were.
Okay.
It looked to me like nobody saw what was going on.
Okay. All right. I couldn't remember. I think that probably pretty quickly somebody's going to get to her, and she's going to, not that it's not going to be terrifying and awful, but it didn't look like it wasn't like the horrible episode of ER, which was the last episode of ER that I watched, because I was like, I'm out. They can't do this to me, where Lucy got stabbed and Carter.
It's going to sound weird to say, but that is my all-time favorite episode.
Well, it was a great episode. It was just, my heart couldn't take it. And I was like, I can't do this. But I think she's going to end. I don't think it's going to end up with her being incredibly harmed physically. I think emotionally, though, who knows? That can't be anything but traumatic. And I absolutely do think that Donnie probably will learn his lesson here, that guy should have probably been tied down, because I don't think it occurred to him at all that he might be a danger to one of the nurses, particularly the female nurses.
Yeah. Okay. Final thoughts. This is a big, I hate to even say the word yay, because it's not like yay, but like as in yes, it was a great episode. I wrote here, this one, wow. I love how this episode hit hard with accurate depictions of how we aren't safer with ICE around. And I hope that this sparks more conversations and opens more people's eyes. The tension continuing to ratchet up, but we still get these quiet moments, in the mix. I loved it. I give this 5 Ogilvy's crossing the street out of 5.
I loved it. I mean, this season is knocking it out of the park. Again, I want to go back and grill these people that episode 2 and 3 were saying that this season was boring and it was starting out too slow. Where are you at now?
Yeah, you want to go back to episode 1, don't you?
Yeah, we're all in it now, buddy. It was incredibly hard to watch. Again, I apologize again, because I think I probably got so heated about ICE. I don't know that I was my most articulate self, but it's because it's just such a frustrating and hard, baffling time in our country's history. And it's just, I think they did a great job of portraying how it really is. I've seen healthcare worker after healthcare worker online this week saying, this is what we deal with. This is how we have to give care in America in 2026. And it's insane, and it's dangerous, and it's killing people. So it was a tough watch, but I think that these writers are amazing. I think they did a great job at introducing this storyline and playing it out. And, I'm really not eager. That's not the right word, but I am very invested in seeing where we're going to go with it. So I give it 5 nicotine patches illegally prescribed to Dana out of 5.
Love it. All right. Procedure of the week. I've been putting this in here, but we haven't really been naming one. My procedure of the week was the rib spreader. I don't know what that procedure was called, but that was badass.
Yeah, that honestly, that's my procedure of the week too.
Heart massaging.
It was hard to watch, but it was also so interesting, and it was really cool that Javati got to be
a badass in front of her mama.
Yeah, and as much as Dr. Shamsi's, as I've said, my least favorite characters, at least this season, it was cool to see them together. And I couldn't help but think, like, how cool would that be for me and my daughter if we were surgeons and got to do surgery together?
Aww.
Yeah, the closest that I can compare it to is mine and Ava tag teaming when we're arguing with people on Facebook.
Hey, that is surgery at its finest. You just don't have a scalpel, you have a keyboard. I get it.
That's right.
All right, one misdiagnosis. I was way wrong about how Langdon's apology to Santos was going to go. So, oops, my bad. I had high hopes.
If only he'd listened to you.
I know, right? Maybe he heard me. He's just still processing it, and it's going to come out the right way.
I feel like, and this is a big swing because it could go another way. It could be that this is just one of those lingering storylines that they're going to draw out over several seasons, because we don't get a lot of emotional resolution in this show. But I could also see that this is just a salvo in an ongoing conversation. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't go great, but isn't that the way? Like, most of the time when we have really tough conversations that we've been dreading, what comes out of our mouth the first time is not necessarily the way that we wanted to communicate ourselves. And then sometimes when somebody says something to us, even though we want to be the bigger person and not react as our most emotional, childish self, we do. And so perhaps this is just how it was always going to go, because that's true to these two characters. But that what is also true is that they're carrying dedicated professionals and growing, and that they will have more conversations down the road that'll be more productive and go better. That's more realistic, really.
Yeah. And something we did not mention that we need to mention is that Dr. Al overheard that Langdon was stealing drugs from the hospital. Apparently, she did not know that. So that may have repercussions of its own later on. We'll see.
Yeah. That's an interesting thing that we really didn't get too far into was, her saying that it was just the three of them that knew about it. But is that true? Because they put him in rehab. So at some point, there had to be a conversation about why he was going to rehab.
Well, because they phrased it that he was an addict, that he had an addiction. But I don't know.
Like, did they just let him self-report and Robbie and
that's what I'm wondering. Because obviously we know Robbie had to sign off on allowing him to stay there, I guess. I don't know. But apparently that we don't know the whole story. And so I guess there is a lot more that's going to come out. But I don't think anybody other than Langdon himself has the right to demand that he out himself.
I don't either. Yeah, for sure.
Curious to see what Dr. Al does with this information.
Yeah. And honestly, I think with Santos, when she calms down, would be like, well, that was a ridiculous thing to say. I don't think that she truly believes that in any universe that any human is going to go and tell every single person they work with, hey, by the way, I used to steal drugs from this place, even if you weren't a doctor.
Yeah. All right. We got a little bit of feedback. So let's jump into that via our What's On Tonight Facebook page. Linda Morrison. Hey, girl. Hey. The show was intense and gave me anxiety. Same, Linda. I had a hard time sleeping. Linda, I've never loved you more. Linda goes on to say, fuck ICE. Lots of other tense moments on the show and the cliffhanger with Emma at the end. And it's like one of those shocked, scared emojis at the end. Right there with you, Linda.
That ding ding was for yet another fuck ICE in this episode.
Yeah.
We should have counted.
We should have.
Our friend Penny Lennox says, not Emma, no. Yeah, it sums up everybody's feelings on that.
Yep. Ginger Morris says, Becky and Mandy, you asked about podcast suggestions. What about DTF St. Louis?
Girl.
There are only 2 episodes up so far on Max, and the 3rd one drops tomorrow. We are loving it and would love to hear you girls cover it. Penny actually suggested to both me and Mandy watch DTF St. Louis, and we are watching it. But here's how it works with us and what we cover. We like to cover brand new shows, which DTF is a brand new show, but we try to cover ones that come once we're done with our coverage of whatever show we're currently covering. So to do DTF St. Louis and get episodes out before the entire show airs while the Pitt's going on would just be too much.
Yeah.
We are loving it too. And if you want to send us your thoughts on the episodes as you watch them, we would love it because we'll still chat with you about it. But we just aren't going to be able to cover that one. It just doesn't work out time-wise.
Which sucks. And I'm glad, actually, Ginger, I'm glad you wrote in because we talked about, Penny and Becky and I talked about it last week and I completely forgot about it. So I haven't actually started it yet. And
I did.
Yeah,
Wow.
I can't wait. It sounds really, really good. It definitely sounds up my alley. So yeah, it does suck that it turned out that just the timing was bad, but I'm certain we'll want to hear your thoughts about it though, Ginger.
Yeah, guys, we talk about TV, movies, and more. So you're watching something and you want to talk about it, send us your thoughts. We'll still have discussions with you about it.
We'll work it in.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Diane Peters says, I really enjoy the show with 4 heart emojis. Thank you, Diane.
And via email, Ellen, who was so amazing on our last episode, she says, I want to clarify some things I said about Mel and Langdon. I like their connection. I think that Mel felt seen and understood by him pretty much right away, and that's her go-to guy. I think it's lovely. My comments weren't meant to be negative about their connection. It's more that I sometimes balk at a portion of the fan base that takes this bond and suggests that nobody other than Langdon even tries with Mel. We've seen so many characters listen, support, and compliment Mel all along. I also thought more about Mel's distracted/stressed behavior, and I categorized it as childlike. But I want to clarify that I didn't mean childish. We've seen multiple characters struggling and making cries for help or shows of deep stress this season, for sure. None of them are being childish. Struggling to articulate stress and acknowledging need for support is not childish or childlike. I could have worded that one differently. I think your takes on everything last week were great. So,
yeah, I love that you're as much of an overthinker as we are.
Yeah, that's why she fit in so good.
For sure. Yeah.
One of the many reasons. She goes on to say, all of which leads into episode 11. Good thing I had my asthma inhaler and on standby. My word. Mel's reaction to learning about Becca's love life was a bit jarring as a viewer, but it felt so real. Kudos to the acting of Taylor Dearden, Tal Anderson, and Patrick Ball there. We've never seen Mel yell or be demanding of Becca. We've never heard Mel swear. That was fucking great.
Saw what you did there.
Yeah.
Hey, before we keep moving, I want to just because I thought of this when I was reading this earlier, I want to point out that Tal Anderson's outfit in this Becca is the cutest thing. I love her outfit.
I wanted that.
Me too. She just looks like summer. It
like
just
she looks like
adorable.
she's going to see the 4th of July fireworks with a hot dude.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really cute. Anyway, go ahead.
Mel has centered her life around Becca and worries about being alone. It will be interesting to see if Mel reaches out or takes in others' offers of support now. Dana was so kind and real with her. I love that too, Ellen. Santos got ditched for fireworks viewings too. Oh my gosh, she's with me. They should hang out. Yes, Ellen, yes. Maybe Mel will look to others aside from Becca and Langdon, not ditching them, but including others as people to socialize or bond with now. Maybe she'll open herself up more to a life with separate moments from Becca. I hope that too.
Maybe she'll help Santos and Langdon. Maybe she'll be the bridge.
Oh my God, she's the mediator.
Could be.
Holy shit, y'all. We are writing this show.
God, why are they not calling us?
I don't understand. I just don't. Maybe they have, and because we don't answer numbers we don't know. We're just missing out grand opportunities. She says, Robbie left Mel mid-sentence while asking her if she had someone to talk to. Yikes. We saw Robbie's selective empathy with awful treatment towards Mohan and McKay. We didn't talk about that. Guilting her over not being there when Roxy died because she was outside helping someone in great need. McKay was so invested in Roxy's care. Gutting McKay at that time was awful. But he was on board with propping up and supporting Travati, Whitaker, and Duke. He is spiraling so hard. The clues of his plans or thoughts of self-harm continue to the point of dialogue spoken to the suicidal mom were heard with the close-up of Robbie's face. Yes. I didn't catch that till second watch, by the way.
Yeah.
Al Hashimi is eagle-eyeing so much in that ED. Yeah, we
Yep.
thought Robbie was the eye and ear hustler. I think Al Hashimi wins the gold on that one. Ellen says, I think she'll be a strong thread of empathy, helping to sew this crew back together by the end of the season. I love that phrase. I love how she phrased that. The Langdon and Santos argument scene was so intense. It wasn't a screaming match blowout, but more a simmering, boiling under the surface tone. Acting kudos here too, especially Issa Briones' ability to hold down a big crying Jag that's bubbling under the surface. She does that so well. She really does. I get the sense the dam will break with those tears, though, soon enough. I think Santos could use a very good cathartic cry.
She sure could. Yeah, she should. She at least, some kind of getting in touch with her own emotions. I know that's uncomfortable for her, but
yeah, it helps sometimes.
Before she completely, it ends up costing her everything that she's working so hard for.
Yeah, it's like when in True Blood, when they stabbed a vampire and they just splattered blood and gore all over the walls. That's how we're just going to see Santos walking down the hall and all of a sudden she's just going to pop.
Yeah, she's about to any moment.
So continuing on with Ellen, she says, I'm not sure how common this is with the fandom that can be super tribal, but I'm rooting hard for both Langdon and Santos. I like Santos more and have all along, but I still find myself rooting for Langdon too. The discussion verified something I wondered about. Who knew about the drug theft and diversion, and who just thought he was an addict dedicated to recovery? It was the latter much more than the former. I really get that would eat Santos up inside, a sense of injustice due to her past trauma and feeling like Langdon is getting golden boy treatment over a half-truth. Whereas I don't think Langdon should be in jail, I get why Santos would. I also don't believe she literally expects Langdon will gather the staff and confess. I think she just wishes people who knew the whole story. I understand why Langdon would be scared shitless at revealing everything too. It's such amazing writing and acting going on. I root hard for them both. It's frustrating to me on a show with ICE, men who assault nurses, the healthcare system itself, that many fans make Santos the villain, and to a smaller extent, Langdon has his haters and villain edit too. They aren't the villains here.
Yeah.
I agree. Well said.
Yeah.
Okay, this is long, and I haven't even mentioned so much other drama. I'm worried for Emma and the continued downward spirals of so many of the characters. I'm worried about all these people who fled when I showed up, and the detained woman and Jesse. All this to say, holy shit, we still have 4 more episodes left. Look forward to hearing your week 11 thoughts. 2 heart emojis. Love you, ladies. We love you too, Ellen. Thank you so much. And I just want y'all to know, I do my best not to read the feedback before we read it on the show. So when we're reading these longer things and I stumble, I'm sorry. It's just because a lot of this, I'm looking at it for the first time.
We like to be fresh.
Yeah.
We got a voicemail from our friend Sam. Here's her thoughts on the episode.
Hi, lovelies. It's Sam. What an intense episode. I mean, it was so...
I'm pausing this right now, and I don't know why this just popped in my head, but because of the echo surrounding Sam right now, I feel like she's sitting in her bathroom recording this. Sam, tell me if that's true.
So good and so emotional, and I kind of enjoyed that, poor cancer mom's death was just quiet and sad, and the ED moves on, right? Like, that's just kind of how it works. I'm glad she went in peace and that Robbie's being Robbie, our favorite Robbie, and giving her time and space. The ICE parts were so spot on, and I guess maybe it didn't hit me as hard as I think it hit a lot of the viewers, because I've been preparing for when this happens. I mean, I'm just a psychologist and I work in a hospital. We've already low-key set up plans on how we would protect our patients as much as we can, and evacuations and helping people prepare for this, as well as if it happens in their home. And yeah, it's just really heartbreaking and sad and wrong, completely wrong. And I like that Robbie used his white man privilege to stand up to them. I think the most unrealistic part of that was that the ICE agent listened and went away.
Oh, Sam, he only did it to go be an asshole.
Yeah, he didn't ignore it. He got pissed. He did walk away at that moment, but then he immediately stormed right over to that poor Pernita and grabbed her.
That was a straight up reaction to Robbie, which just shows how fucking cowardly they are. Like, he wasn't going to take Robbie on, but he'd go
Beat up on this tiny
manhandle
little
this
woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not typically what they do. You know, when Jesse was arrested, I mean, that's something I know us staff have been like really concerned about too, because we're like, you know, we're not gonna let you take our patients. So it's all wrong. Like it's all bad. This shouldn't be happening. And I think it says quite a lot about the episode that there were ICE agents around this little Latina woman who did nothing wrong and just wanted to call her daughter and was in pain. Meanwhile, there's a belligerent, drunk, violent person, a white man that was brought in, and he didn't have any security around him, and he was able to attack poor Emma. Next week's gonna hit me hard again. So like, it just goes to show, like, ICE is useless. We shouldn't be having them. They're the Gestapo. They're the Nazi regime. They shouldn't be here. These are the opinions of myself and not what's on tonight. But
oh, no, they're definitely ours.
No, we're good.
They shouldn't be here. They should not be here. They should be abolished. No reform. I'm so sick of that. We need to get rid of them. Absolutely get rid of them. And a side note, man, Langdon's apology was the worst.
Yeah.
Like, so Santos thinking he should lose his medical license and go to prison is a little much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As far as we know,
Two things can be true.
That's a lot. That's a lot, Dr. Santos. And I also get her anger. Like, Langdon's apology was complete bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what I've suffered. And then he goes to list on natural consequences. And it's like, you didn't fucking suffer at all what you're listing out. What do you... It was just, that's not how you make amends. That's not how you make apologies. And, like, he just totally sucked. It was the worst apology. And, like, he needs to do more. And I don't blame Dr. Santos for not trusting him or accepting his apology, because that was a stupid apology. Like, that, and you know I'm a Langdon fan, but, like, that was real dumb. And I think Becky and I gave him a lot more credit than we turned out to witness. He still has time to change before the end of the season.
I'm still giving him credit for doing the steps. And again, like I said in the earlier thing, I don't think it's cookie cutter for every single person. And I don't think you wake up one morning and it all clicks and everything's perfect. He's still got a lot of work to do, but I am going to still give him credit for the work he's done. But that was a shitty apology.
Season, which I hope he does. But I'm Team Santos with that apology. Holy crap, that was terrible. And
I'm Team No One.
Yeah, so I'm liking Dr. Al Hashimi more as the season goes on, and Dana is just all of us, and I'm interested to see where this goes. I like how Robbie defended Dr. Javadi with her mom, 'cause her mom was being out of pocket too. What was that? Did you do this? We're just seeing more and more how switching to analog just puts patients in danger, and we're just not built for it anymore.
No one's ready.
So I am appreciating like what we're seeing. So what would you ladies do if, you know, the ICE showed up at your workplace, like knowing that, you know, you have to protect yourselves, as much as I hate to say it. Putting our bodies on the line is no longer going to protect anyone. I don't know. I'm all for distraction. Keep them distracted.
Yeah.
While you help everyone else evacuate.
Yep.
What about you ladies?
That's exactly what I would try to do is try to distract them to allow anybody I knew that was scared or possibly could get arrested. But the problem is I'm a person of color and I am at just as much risk of getting arrested as anybody else. So I feel like Mandy and I might have two very different answers there.
Well, it's interesting that you said that about how I would respond versus how a person of color would respond. It reminds me of yesterday, Becky, when I sent you that screenshot because it made me laugh of my friend Zara. One of my good friends is an Iranian immigrant who's been here for many, many years. She's a U.S. citizen, I believe, fully at this point. But she's been here for decades. However, for a lot of reasons, I'd sent her a message saying, do you want to go to the next No Kings protest with me in our small little town? And she messaged me back and said, I don't think that that would be a safe thing for a brown person to do, but why don't you take your white privilege, your white girl privilege, and I fully support you doing that. And it made me laugh because we just have been friends since we were 20 years old. So, it was kind of joking, but serious because she knew that absolutely is something that I see as part of my responsibility in this country today is to, whenever, not just in that scenario, but in any scenario where I can do something safely for people who are being marginalized and abused in this country, that it is my job to do that. Frankly, it's more my job because, in my opinion, my demographic has created this fucking chaos more than anyone else has. White people, but specifically white women, we just keep voting against our own best interests and everyone else's best interests as well. It's baffling and it's mind numbing. And so I just look for any opportunity that I can to be an advocate for people that I love and care about that don't feel safe in this country right now.
Cool.
All right, guys. Well, Sam, that was a really very thought-provoking question, and we always love hearing your thoughts. And as always, to everyone, thank you for all of you that take your time to send us this feedback. We love it. Obviously, we enjoy it. We want you to just keep it coming. If you have things that we have not addressed that you would like to hear us address or thoughts about anything, just take a moment and leave us some feedback, and we will definitely discuss it on the show.
Absolutely. And if you would like to get in touch with us, leave some feedback or just say hello, you can email or send us a voice message as an attachment to what's on tonight and the number 2 at gmail.com.
You can visit our Facebook page where there will be a post for the next episode, and you can leave feedback in the comment section or send us a message through Facebook Messenger. We can be found on Instagram as well at What's On Tonight Podcast and the number 2.
We would greatly appreciate it if you leave a review, comment, like, and or share on your podcast listening app of choice. And word of mouth also goes a long way. So if you're enjoying what we do, please tell your friends so they can hop on and listen too. All right. Well, how about we treat wounds in the park with McKay and Ogilvy and talk about podcast recommendations, good TV, movies, or anything else we would like to share. Podcast recommendations. I've got the usual, still slang. Check out everything Mark's got going on at Pirate Core Entertainment. He's putting out a lot of great content. What I really want to do here, we had to get a new car this weekend, new to us car. And I just want to plug the Johnson City Nissan dealership and the car dealer, Dustin Long. The guy was amazing. He just happened to be coming out the door as we were coming in, and he was like, "Can I help you all?" By the time we left there, we had their cell phone numbers. We were all, the owner of the business sat down with mom and was talking to mom about music and growing up in the South. It was a beautiful.
And after the week you both had, that could not have come at a better time. That kind of compassion and good care, good customer service.
Yeah. And he pulled me aside and basically was like, I see what's going on. And I see you. I see what you're doing. And I think it's amazing. And I just thought the whole place was, I loved it all. We loved the entire experience. And when you're spending money, it's never easy, but they made it easy to do with them at this dealership. So Johnson City Nissan, if you're in the area and looking for a car, please go look up Dustin. They were great. And TV recommendations, Ginger already suggested it for us, but I took Pitty's suggestion and am watching DTF St. Louis. It's kooky. I didn't know what to expect. And wow, it's very interesting. And so thank you, Penny, for the recommendation. Mandy?
I can't wait to get started on it. The only thing I really want to add here is we talked a little bit about why we feel as strongly as we do about what's going on. And again, I want to reiterate, this is not a Christian podcast. We are both Christian people, but this is not a Christian podcast. And I don't want to make it one, but I think it's funny a lot of times when people say call me a radical or what. I'm not at all. I'm not even particularly far far to the left of the political spectrum. But if you want to know, like, why is this something that it's heartbreaking to see beyond just the fact that, I have compassion and empathy, it's because I'm a Christian. And so I want to read this Bible verse, if you'll just bear with me. It's Luke 10, chapter 25 through 37. It's the parable of the Good Samaritan. On one occasion, an expert in the law stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? What is written in the law? He replied. How do you read it? He answered, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. You have answered correctly, Jesus replied. Do this and you will live. But he wanted to justify himself, so he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In reply, Jesus said, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, where he was attacked by robbers. They stripped him out of his clothes, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. A priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too, a Levite, when he came to the place and saw him, passed by on the other side. Levites were the priestly class in Judaism. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came, which again, just to interject, a Samaritan was somebody from Samaria, which was not Jewish people living in the same area. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went to him and he bandaged his wounds, poured on oil and wine. Then he put the man on his own donkey, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper. Look after him, he said, and when I return, I will reimburse you for any extra expense you may have. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? The expert in the law replied, the one who had mercy on him. And Jesus told him, go and do likewise.
Amen.
So when you hear people who call themselves Christians, and I want to particularly say this, I think, as a bit of an apology to the people out there who are harmed by those types of people who are not Christian. When you hear those people justifying this stuff, that is not Jesus. The words that I just read to you, those are the words of Jesus Christ. And that is what we're called to do. And we're failing shamefully in this country right now.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I haven't heard that in a while. We'd like to give a big thank you to Mark and Pirate Core Entertainment for giving us this platform. Please visit the Pirate Core website. It can be found on our Facebook page, and there you can find our podcast as well as other podcasts like Dinner for Her with our very own Mandy, Panels to Pixels podcast, Adrenaline Cinema, and other projects Mark is working on.
We made it, Becky.
We did it.
We got all the way to the end, and here we are wrapping up our coverage of episode 11 of season 2 of The Pitt.
Ugh.
Whew. Again, this next one, man, like this is where they got to justify, like, what are we going to do to keep these characters in the hospital for the next 3 episodes? So do not see it being lighter.
No,
don't think
not
this
at
is
all.
going to be the comedy episode
No.
coming up. Okay, we'll be back next week to cover episode 12 entitled 6 p.m. and continue to keep an eye out for more great interviews.
I'm an editing fool, y'all. I'm getting them out there.
It sure is, man.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. We'll leave you with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson that goes very well with what Mandy just read. Every human being of whatever origin, of whatever station, deserves respect. We must each respect others, even as we respect ourselves. I'm Becky.
And I am still Mandy.
We'll catch you next week when we grab the remote and see what's on tonight. Bye. Hold on, Mandy. Hey, you need anything? You're good. It's just me and Mandy.
Hi, Mandy.
Mom says hi.
Hi, Doris.
Hi, Doris.
She the one sent the candy.
Is she? Yeah, she is the one who sent all that yummy candy.
Thank you. I loved it.
Yeah, we all went ham on that.
I'm just trying to fatten you back up so that I'll feel more comfortable.
Oh, well, I'm glad.